Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Anil Joshi welcoming you for the series of lecture which we are conducting. Today's topic is Stenson's duct evaluation by sonography. This is our own research work which we have conducted and we have published in an international journal, and this is the details of it. An analytical study of parotid gland pathologies as detected by sonography. This article was published by myself and my wife, Dr. Rajni Joshi. So with this, I thank her also for giving me permission to conduct a lecture over her topic and over our research. Now let's get started. This was another research article which we have published regarding unusual cause of prominent accessory parotid duct. So two total publications we have made on this topic, and today we are going to present this lecture on same thing. Now let's see how the parotid gland is situated. It is situated at the angle of mandible. Then there are two lobes, and there is one duct which takes the secretions from the parotid gland into the mouth. In mouth there is a puncta in which it opens. So xylography is performed in radiology in the department by a radiologist with simple radiology machine, usually over 300 mA. If there is difficulty in cannulation, which we have not really found in our study except in one or two cases, then the procedure of dilatation of puncta is usually done by ENT surgeon. In that condition, we call ENT surgeons, they do the dilatation, and after the dilatation, we continue with our study. Now, what is the role of sonography with xylography? Sonography is an excellent supportive investigation along with parotid xylography. By and large, it is our routine practice to do sonography first and then to subject patient for parotid xylography. We have suggested an appropriate imaging modality, that is how these two things can be combined, and what are the modifications done in sonography for performing parotid duct evaluation, and that subsequently will be seen. It is same as the parotid xylography, but instead of radiation we are using sonography in it. Now this was the study which we have performed on sonography by using some stimulants like lemon juice and conducting a study which gives us a better yield. Now let us see what are the indications for the parotid xylography. Xylolithiasis or salivary duct obstruction. Xylolithiasis, lithiasis is stasis, xylo is salivary stasis in the salivary gland. Usually it is secondary to the duct pathologies. So to evaluate the xylolithiasis or duct obstruction, if there is obstruction of the duct that is causing xylectasis, is usually evident on the parotid xylography by the technique which you are going to see in the phases, and to identify the ductal strictures. Strictures can be complete, they can be partial, they can be of different types, they can be of different length, and that all we are going to see when we are going to see a film reading session in the same series. Now xylectasis in chronic inflammatory diseases has got a well-established role, and it is, as I said, is usually followed by sonography. Now what are the contraindications? Is it that all patients which we can take for parotid xylography? Yes, there are certain contraindications. Then anticipated failure to cannulation. Often we take the patient but we do not cannulate. It is usually because of the fibrosis in puncta, or there is a calculus just below the opening. In that case, there is a difficulty in cannulating the duct. Obviously, for no reason, we can continue the examination. Then second is the active inflammation or infection. As I told you, usually a parotid xylography is done following parotid sonography. So Doppler evaluation is first. If there is any active infection, we ask this patient to get antibiotic coverage or to come after some days. Now what are the complications? Is it that the procedure is totally safe? Yes, there are certain complications which I want to warn you. You have to be careful. Though in our technique, though in our study we have not come across any complications, but we do not say there are no complications. One has to think of pain during injection of the contrast When we are injecting a contrast, usually patient complains that there is some heaviness, but usually severe pain is not there by which we have to abolish the procedure. That we have not seen. But some pain they do complain, and we do take care of that. Now, post-procedural infection rate, the technique which we are following do not have any chance of introducing infection, number one. And number two, post-procedural, we give patients certain stimulants which are routinely that can be used routinely, and with that they can get their parotid gland emptied frequently, and there are less chances of infection. Now, iatrogenic punctal rupture, fine. We are using gel code of around 23 number, so there are absolutely no chances that there can be a puncture iatrogenically. We have not come across it, and it's a theoretical complication. Extravasation of contrast is again a theoretical complication, but one has to think or consider it if it occurs. Now, as with all the procedures, a consent has to be obtained. Now, while obtaining a consent, we have to tell patient the total procedural details, how it is performed, then the risk of the contrast related complication. Though water soluble contrast which we are using, there are theoretical complications, there are theoretical reactions, but still we have to explain the patient as compared to rate of it. Then is the post-procedural care patient has to take. I think it is most important. If patient takes proper care, it's very simple and they will not have any complications at all. Then information is given regarding bleeding. There is hardly any traumatization or rupture, so bleeding chances are less. Infection, okay, theoretical possibilities that can be taken care. Sometimes patients are followed with antibiotic coverage. Then damage to the adjacent structures, fine, I don't think so there are any. Then possibility of scarring of the duct orifice or perforation of the duct, we have really not seen it, neither we have come across it. We have got follow-up of this procedure in many patients for more than 3 to 4 years, but we have never come across this complication. Then what is the preparation of patient? Preparation of patient is not really very long or very tedious. It's a simple thing which patient has to follow. Then for preparation, patient has to be neck extended, mouth open, and we have to identify the orifice. We have to identify the orifice that is usually opposite second molar. Then non-eye contrast is injected. So that is a procedure which we are going to see in more detail. Pre-medication essentially okay, theoretically we should give, yes, we need to take care, but usually pre-medications are given in antibiotic form or they are not given. Then before starting the procedure, now we are seeing the details, how the procedure is confirmed. We have taken the consent, we have taken the patient. Now view all the previous procedure records, view all the procedure details before, know all the diseases patient has got, know all the procedures, particularly of the salivary gland, if they are performed, we must know. Then identify ductal anatomy, unexpected strictures, abnormal anatomy, abnormal opening of the duct. Yes, we have to keep in mind, but by and large it's not really significant. Some congenital anomalies we have come across which are reported in the literature. They are available as per the details at the beginning of the lectures. Then we have to ensure patient that he should take plenty of waters to be properly hydrated. Then we have to give patient a betadine gargle or whatever the gargles are available, antiseptic gargles are available in the commercial market from the chemist shop. We give them, that is 2 or 3 times before the procedure, and after the procedure 3-4 times for 1 or 2 days. Anesthesia, local, general, otherwise is not required. We have done these procedures for all the patients ranging right from the 3 years up to 60 or 70 years. We never felt that anesthesia is required, provided we convince patient, we tell them properly, and we consolate them before the procedure. Now let us go to the anatomical consideration. First is visualize duct. Stenson's duct, that is a parotid duct, empties into the parotid papilla on the buccal mucosa adjacent to the maxillary first and second molar tooth. So patient has to keep mouth open, state slightly the buccal mucosa and have a look at the opening. Then Cylograms are obtained in multiple projections at various stages. So before starting a procedure, in the form of a scout film, or maybe be practice to the technicians what is going to be there, we have to do it in quick succession. AP and lateral projection. AP is taken straight, lateral we have to go for transtable positions. Some modifications are required. So all the trials are done while doing a scanogram or scout film, and that will give us a faster rapid sequence during the procedure. Now conventional overhead rondogram and anterior, post and lateral projections is what is required. The films are checked for technical accuracy, technical errors, Jelco positions, and whether the dye has gone into the duct or there is extravasation. We have not, while doing the maneuvering, whether the Jelco has slipped out, that all has to be checked. And once it is checked, then patient is asked to relax, then patient sits, then to empty the contrast into the system, that is the salivary acini, salivary duct. We give a piece of lemon and put little lemon juice on the tip of mouth, or there are sometimes a toffees available with a flavor of lemon. I think they are good enough. Patient enjoys also, and it's good enough. Now, before the procedure, patient has to remove the dentures and all that thing. Then jewelries, of course, because they come in the way. Plain excess we take 2 to 3 drops of lemon is squeezed into the mouth. So what we do is take the patient on the table, take the scout film, ask patient to open the mouth, put the tongue out, put few drops of lemon on the tip of the tongue, and see at the parotid duct opening. We'll see saliva oozing out. After that, we take a 23 number Jelco, put it to the artery forceps. This I have explained in detail in next coming video. Then we use water soluble contrast, that is Omnivec 300, which is absolutely safe and has got no post-procedural complications at all. After verifying the position of the cannula, that is a very simple thing. Once we put the cannula in, we just move it little bit. If the tip is in the duct, yes, we know it. Then we go for the proper injection. Now, while filling the syringe, while putting the Jelco, we see to that there is no air in the system. That is either in the Jelco or at the syringe or in the contrast. Then we go for AP and lateral projections. Now, since the contrast is injected slowly and films are taken simultaneously, segmental visualization of Stenson's duct is seen. Now here the important is the technique of a person who injects the contrast, which is usually procedures are done by myself. So if you inject contrast slowly, then only you can get the segments of the duct. Otherwise full contrast goes into acini, and then we will not get these branches and segments properly. And the procedure can be completed in 10 to 20 minutes. We do not use any local anesthetic agent. At the end of the procedure, the catheter is removed. We gave some sore testing toffees to empty the contrast from the salivary system. Now the contrast media may taste sour. That is the idea given to the patient. Not very sour, they accept it, but idea is given. The radiation exposure to the patient is kept at minimum. Then third is, while performing the technique, a care is taken to avoid iatrogenic perforation of the parotid duct. Now this is the scout film AP we had taken. Here you are seeing nicely both side parotid, and we'll see where the duct comes in the subsequent contrast. This was AP, and now this is a lateral. Lateral is taken as a transtable. Now let's see how a procedure is done. This is a procedure demo, and this is all thing that we need really. Then a just 2 ml syringe, then contrast, 23 number Jelco, antiseptics, and that is the non-ionic contrast which we are using. All these things are readily available anywhere. The procedure is very simple. We take out the Jelco 22 or 23 number, then the outer sheath is removed, the inside metallic part is discarded. Now see how it is done. Now we are taking out the metallic component. It is kept outside. Then we have got a plastic one, that is a plastic cannula which usually goes into the vein. Now it is connected to the syringe. Now I am taking out the syringe. It is connected. Syringe is filled with a contrast. We take care that no air goes inside. This all simple thing. It is not an actual procedure. I just showed how it is done. Now this is all preparation that we make. All is sterilized. Then all gel gauze are single use. Then these are the two ways I am showing you how a left side right side cannulation is done. We just put it in, inject and take AP and lateral projections. So that's the end of the procedure. Very simple, 10 to 20 minutes, patient walks in, walks out. So there is no pain, no complication, some distress is there and patient enjoys the lemon drops at the end of procedure. Now we come to the interpretation. The phase 1, which I told you, is slow injection of the contrast into the parotid duct. Now this is most important if you want to visualize a duct in segmental manner. So it's a filling phase. If an ordinary branching of the duct system is absent, one must consider the following possibilities. Complete obstruction to main duct means if you do not see any contrast into the duct, what do you think? You may think of complete obstruction at the main duct by an impacted stone. We'll see how it looks in film reading section. Then there can be invasion of main duct by neoplasm, which is a rare. It is not as common as what we really think. It is a rare thing, but if at all, we know it before because we are doing sonography before starting the procedure, and during sonography itself we know that patient has a neoplasm. So it's a very simple diagnosis. The neoplasm has invaded a parotid duct. But this is, by and large, it is not a very common indication for parotid salography. Then improper catheter position with catheter tip beyond the wall of main duct. Now what happens is, we are putting a duct and we are going for the film. Once the tip of the catheter is put into the duct and slowly the contrast is injected, sometime maybe because of the patient moves, maybe because of the technical error, the tip of the cannula comes out. So that is the second reason, which is very common. Then you have to recannulate and get another film. Then an acutely kinked segment of the main duct. Acutely kinked segment of main duct. This you have to keep in mind, and slight adjustment of the catheter tip will eliminate this. This is technical, so while doing it, if you find the catheter is not going smoothly, think of the total obstruction, think of the partial obstruction, also think of the kink, try to negotiate it, or if you are putting a contrast, you will know it at the first film that there is a kink. So in next subsequent films, you can readjust them. Now come to the second phase. Second phase is a emptying phase. First is a duct phase, branching phase. Second is the ascinar phase. The dye goes into the ascinar, and after confirming the dye, the syringe is disconnected. So after first stage, second is after the ascinar phase, catheter is taken out and we go for a delayed fill. Now let us see for the normal filling phase. This is a normal filling phase, maybe a second film. First film shows it up to the first few centimeters of the duct, and in this you are seeing up to the first and second branching. It takes approximately 30 minutes later for parotid gland to empty all the dye which it has got. It is expelled out and it should get expelled out normally. So whatever dye we have injected should not be seen after the end of 30 minutes. The contrast will be completely evacuated. Sometime naturally, sometime if you see still, then give a drop of lemon and try it. It will get washed away. And if it doesn't get washed away, think of some distal obstruction. So delayed film showing expulsion of contrast. Here you are seeing that from right side almost all the contrast has gone with some remnants. Some enlarged parotid gland is also seen. Now, what is the post-operative care? Encourage patient for gentle massage over the parotid gland. A gentle massage, just it will empty the parotid. The whatever dye is there, it will get expelled. Tell patient that as long as patient is getting sore taste, the dye is still in saliva. So keep on doing massage. Number one, we do not use antibiotics, and lemon tasting toffees are recommended, which patient really enjoys well, and they are happy that after the procedure they are treated with toffees. Now, these are the films from a research article. So what I request is, yes, we'll see it now also, and if you want to see really detail, all the details of my research articles are given. You can go back to it and you can have a look at it. Which is not a common, it's traumatic. This patient had a stab injury. Because of that, he had a salivary fistula, and they want to know where the parotid duct is cut. So this first patient is of that. Now, ciliastasis, there are different patients. Then ciliastasis is when the salivary gland retains the contrast, or when there are dilated acini. Ciliastasis, the causes are usually post-inflammatory and the duct strictures. That also we are going to see in more detail. Then what we are seeing here is a congenital aberrant course of the accessory parotid duct. This is also reported by us, and the original research article is available. You are given the details at the beginning of this lecture. Now, this is a technique which we have developed. Now, this is ultrasonography. Whenever there is a difficulty in cannulation of puncta and there is stasis in post Saligoc film, these are the two main indications when you will have to go back to your ultrasound room. Ultrasonography is indicated at the same time with the contrast filled duct. When the duct is filled with the contrast, when you have completed the procedure, what we are seeing is just taking patient to the ultrasound room and seeing the duct. This gives us a beautiful idea about the strictures, and this technique is modified by us in combination with sonography. Now, there are three conventional views as described, and the pictures are provided, and they give a good anatomy of the gland. Lateral. Now see here, you can see the parotid duct. Not only it is segmentally dilated, but also it has got beaded appearance. This is usually suggestive of a partial stricture or ciliastasis. Ciliastasis is stasis of contrast, and partial scarring is what you are seeing in the ciliography. This is the main indication for ciliography. Now most of the patients, they make a large volume. Now see here, you are finding a localized collection of contrast. There is localized pooling with stasis. Now these are usually the cysts which communicate. You can call this as silocele. Silocele are the cysts of the parotid duct which communicate. Now, as earlier we have seen, there was a little bit more scarring. In this patient, what we are seeing, the scarring is not as complete. There is mild scarring, and the significance of such patients, it is important. You will have to take them to the ultrasound room. I will repeat again, in these patients, it is very important role of ultrasound to play. Ultrasound gives a delayed, proper evaluation of the gland. If there are partial stricture, most important thing is whether they are causing ciliastasis, whether the dye is getting retained, and whether acini are dilated. These things you must see before patient goes back. Ultrasound is extremely helpful in these patients. Again, here beaded appearance. AP projection is equally important. It gives a very good idea and has to be employed, though a lateral projection is more popular. Both should be taken. What is this? A large calcification. Which is the procedure? The procedure is OPG. So OPG is taken for dental purposes, but what we are seeing is a calculus in left parotid duct. So as I told you, AP lateral are the two projections. This is not a popular, OPG is not a popular method of choice for taking a scout film for a parotid calculi, because it is seen improperly in our routine X-rays. There is no need for OPG. But if you take OPG, yes, you can see a calculus at the opening of parotid duct. I have discussed in detail the types of pathologies, the types of technique, the method by which you can detect a salivary duct abnormalities, where to give importance, which are technically important, which are clinically important. Now, after all these things, It's a very simple procedure. Any indication, whether you are suspecting any pathologies of the parotid duct, it's a investigation worth doing. Very simple, very economical, not require much of the time, don't require much of the equipments, only 2 AP and 2 lateral are almost sufficient. So should be employed as far as possible, and it should be combined with an ultrasound to get the optimum results. Yes. Now I thank you for giving me your valuable time, which is most important. You have given me your valuable time. You have heard this lecture, and I am sure you will make use of it. Now please note, radiology is not a race. It's not a race. It's a process. What a process means, process is a continuous. You keep on continuous learning, and you keep on adding your knowledge. You are getting more and more experiences. So when you are traveling through this process, you can enjoy the feast of knowledge also, and you can give the benefit to your patients also. I am Dr. Anil Joshi, logging off till we meet again. There are going to be a lot of lecture series by me also and by my friends also. I am sure you will enjoy it. So keep on getting knowledge, keep on getting experience, and do your best to help your needy patients.